it improves interpersonal closeness, but weakens joint Simon effect. I'm Yuan He from Trinity College, Dublin. You've probably seen body swapping scenes in sci-fi movies and wondered what it would feel like to wake up in someone else's body. Would sharing the same body make you feel closer to each other, or would it help you to better predict each other's actions? Mixed reality now makes this possible. You can become someone else while still being present in the real environment. We present the first mixed reality body swapping study by using joint Simon task that allows us to test how shared body embodiment reshapes the boundary between self and others. Our study was guided by four main research questions. First, does swapping bodies change how people coordinate actions as measured by joint Simon effect in this study? Second, does swapping also change interpersonal closeness, as is this related to joint action? Third, which embodiment components actually drive this change? Finally, we look at individual differences. Body swapping has been explored across several lines of research. Classic illusory body transfer studies from the rubber hand to full body swaps show that synchronized multisensory cues and altered perspective can induce a strong body ownership. In VR embodiment, modifying avatar attributes such as height, age, race, and gender changes body ownership, sense of body ownership, and even self-perception. Body swapping also affects social attitudes, increasing empathy and reducing bias. In MR and VR, like real-time body swapping is technically possible, but like barely research so far has examined its effect on joint sensory motor coordination. The Simon task is a classic paradigm where participants respond to a non-spatial feature of a stimulus, such as color or shape, using spatially defined keys or two hands. Even though location is irrelevant, responses are faster when the stimulus and response sets matches. This phenomenon is known as Simon effect. And in go, no-go task, participants only respond to one stimulus. The effect disappears. When two people share this task, each responding to only one stimulus type, just like no-go, no-go task, the effect reappears and it's called joint Simon effect, like in short, JSE. It is, we chose this paradigm because it is well established in cognitive psychology for measuring whether individuals co-represent their partner's actions as if they were their own. Moreover, like it provides a clean quantitative behavior marker, and previous studies have shown that the closer the two people are, the bigger magnitude of the JSE they will have. This is our experiment setup, like two people stand by each other and facing to a like whiteboard, but in MR, this is a mirror. And these are the stimuli we use. We chose different types of like spatially irrelevant shapes because like to avoid the acquaintance like effect after a while. Like in each trial, like first they have a cross to fix their gaze for 500 milliseconds, and then the stimulus appears for 1,000 milliseconds, and then repeat. Our experiment contains four counterbalanced blocks. Standard Simon and go, no-go are baseline conditions, and these are, there are two joint blocks using like self and swap avatars. It's more clear in the video. This is the self-embodiment stage. In each block, the participant starts with embodying their own self-avatar. They were asked to rotate heads, moving arms, and jumping, squats, and making and observing their own facial expressions in the mirror. Yeah, and they conducted the standard Simon task by themselves. In this case, right hand for the purple ball and left hand for the turquoise ball. When the purple ball appears to the right side or the turquoise ball to the left side, they are spatially compatible. Otherwise, they're incompatible. The go no go task is also conducted by single participant, but the participant only need to respond to one stimulus by using one hand. And here comes the joint task. This is the condition by using self-avatars. The participants meet the partner, which was the experimenter. First, and they interact with each other for 90 seconds. Then they start to do the task together. In this case, the right person click the upper, the arrow point to the up, and the left person click the button when the arrow pointed downward. In a swap the after condition, the joint task stays the same, but participants need to swap after with the partner and interact with each other by using these new identities. In this case, the right person should click when the 9 shows up, and the left person click when 6 shows up. Okay, before, here are the results. Before testing the joint conditions, we first confirmed the baseline Simon effect. On the left, we can see clear spatial compatibility effect in the standard assignment task. On the, it's about 53 milliseconds slower for the compatible trials. On the right, in the go-no-go version, that effect disappears as what we expected. This pattern replicates the classic Simon findings in MR, and it shows the MR implementations and the timing worked exactly as what we intended. And here is our first key result. On the left, you see the inclusion of other in self, which is the measurement we use for self-other boundary. After body swapping, participants felt significantly closer to their partner. On the right, we see the joint Simon effect. In the self-after condition, we have the typical 52 millisecond compatibility effect, but after swapping bodies, it dropped by roughly 25 milliseconds. This combination tells a very interesting story, like body swapping strengthens social interpersonal closeness, but at the same time weakens motor coupling. Here's our second key finding. The drop in the joint Simon effect is largely driven by a reduction in body ownership. As we can see on the table, ownership scores significantly decreased after swapping, while co-presence and behavioral interdependence increased. The scatter plot shows that participants who lost more ownership also showed a larger drop in JSE. Interestingly, social closeness still increased, but the Euro self-other boundary and JSE relationship disappeared. we also looked at individual differences. Participants with a higher self-concept clarity felt significantly closer to their partner after swapping bodies. This suggests that the people with a clear sense of self can adapt more easily to this shared or distributed embodiment. Extroversion showed only a weak negative trend, and no personality trait predicted change in joint semen effect itself. Our findings review the body swapping weakens joint semen effect, and there's probably why when participants control each other's avatar, the normal self-other distinction in spatial coding becomes blurred. That reduces the spatial interference that drives the JSE. We also see a functional split in embodiment. Like a visual appearance, which usually contribute to the ownership, is now tied to the partner's avatar. So, like while motor control linked to agency remains with oneself, this division makes the two avatars feel like a shared, unified system. As a result, social closeness increases because of shared embodiment, but motor level coupling weakens. In other words, body swapping merges people socially, but divides them sensory motorly. There are some limitations, like we only have 33 participants, and all the experiment was done with the experiment, and we only use the reaction time, which is the task, like the joint Simon task and questionnaires. And to look ahead, there are several directions for future work. First, we may need larger and more diverse samples, including bias like friends, strangers, and or maybe teams, to see how relationship context interacts with body swapping. And then we could probably run the long-term body swapping instead of a short experiment, more longer-term study. And we could also do human AI interaction, swapping interaction. And we could involve more multimodal measures, especially the physiological and neuroscientific measures. Yes. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you. So now is the time for the question and answer. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands and ask by. Or you can just go by for the microphone, please.
Thank you for a great talk. So I may have missed this, but how did you ensure that the embodiment of the body before the swap was sufficiently high?
Sorry, could you, before swapping, could you repeat your question?
How did you ensure that the embodiment of the body before the swap was sufficiently high?
We only controlled this by time, and we ask questionnaires. What matters for this study is the embodiment changes, and we at the beginning we asked them to embody themselves because we want the feeling the swapping really happens in real time. So before each block, we ask them to embody their self avatar first. And if it's self-avatar condition, they stay with their self-avatar and do the interaction for 90 seconds. Because from the literature review, we check the normal time, it's around this range, and so we use 90. We use 90 seconds for self-avatar embodiment first, and the interaction lasts also 90 seconds. So we use the time to make sure they have enough time to feel the avatar and without getting boring. And in the swap the condition, we ask them to embody their self avatar first, and then they swap with each other, and then they interact with each other with the new avatar for also like 90 seconds. So we use the time and we ask the questionnaire, the the classical embodiment, sense of embodiment questionnaire. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have any quick one?
Right, thank you very much for the presentation. It's really interesting. I'm just curious if you think the style of the avatar, like the chosen of the avatar, would affect the results. Like for example, if you prefer like longer hairs, but the avatar is like short hairs, would that affect the, for example, body ownership or something?
Oh, sorry. Like I didn't mention it in this talk. Like to design the avatar, I asked the participant to design beforehand based on their physical looking, and to make sure like it matches their current physical looking. And I prepare like 2 shirts, like for participants a white shirt, and for me maybe the black shirt. And then they can see themselves like the clothing is the same and the looking is as similar as possible, because it's a bit cartoonish. But I asked them to use their like front face photo to create an avatar which physically look like themselves. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's almost time, so thank you very much for you, the first presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hayeon Kim, presenting Presence Lens framework for understanding how presence unfolds moment by moment in VR. This is joint work with Professor Ingon Lee. If you've used VR, presence is constant. It builds, breaks, and recovers. Yet traditional research treats it as a single post-session score. Today, I will show how we model this dynamic process and what we discovered. Let me start with the problem. Current presence research has 4 major limitations. First, presence is treated as static. We hand the participants a questionnaire after their session and ask them summarize 15 minutes with a single score. Second, we only measure the endpoint. We have no idea what happened during the experience. Did the presence build gradually, spike early, break, and recover? Third, existing work analyzes modalities in isolation, visuals or audio or interaction separately. But presence emerges from how this coordinated together. First, we are missing the dynamic structure entirely. Our core insight, presence doesn't just happen, it evolves. To understand it, we need to model that temporal structure. Our research vision moved beyond static questionnaires to dynamic, data-driven presence modeling. We model presence as a temporally evolving, multimodal process with 3 key components: continuous integration of visual, audio, interaction, and gaze data. Our 4 modalities synchronized. Interpretable deep learning, explainable AI revealing feature-level contributions, not a black box. Our approach, a dynamic process showing how presence rises, first breaks, and recovers across time. To build presence lens, we conducted a large-scale study. We recruited about 120 participants, each experiencing a wide range of 20 commercial VR titles across action, narrative, exploration, and simulation genres. Each session lasted around 50 minutes, giving us over 1,000 sessions and nearly 750,000 synchronized data segments. For every segment, we recorded 4 data streams, visual frames, audio bare spectrograms, interaction tracking, and eye tracking. Are perfectly time-locked, capturing how users saw, heard, moved, and focused in VR. How presence lens processes this data for modality-specific encoders, swim transformer for visual, HTS-AT for audio, temporal transformer for interaction and gaze. Each projects into a shared 512-dimensional space. Cross-modal fusion with the transformer attention learns how these signals relate, producing a unified segment representation. Dual temporal modeling by LSTM captures long-range dependencies. Temporal transformer refines segment predictions. Outputs is segment-level presence scores for fine-grained dynamics and session-level scores from 3 validated questionnaires. Here are the performance results at the session level. The model archived on R scaled of 0.64 with the individual questionnaires range from 0.53 to 0.61. The real innovation is a segment-level inference across about 720,000 segments, each temporally structured and aligned with the session scores. Even though it was trained only on session levels labels, the model captures fine-grained moment-to-moment variation in presence. Predictions correlate strongly ground truth, showing that presence lens can reconstruct temporal dynamics from cause supervision alone. To understand what the model learned, we built a 3-layer interpretability pipeline. Temporal attribution via time shape, which moments matter most. Spatial attribution via attention rollout, where users look. Modality attribution via integrated gradients, visual, audio, interaction, or gaze. We combine this into 128-dimensional attribution vectors and run k-means clustering to discover recurring patterns. So let me show you 2 real examples. First, the physical accuracy. Imagine a moment in super hot VR when you throw an object. The model shows 2 sharp peaks, one when you lift it, another when it hits the target. The system's attention focuses on your hand and the object. This pattern reflects physics-driven presence. The sense of this feels right because motion and feedback are tightly linked. Next, sensory synchronization. Think of a combat scene where a flash and gunshot occur almost together. When those cues align within half a second, they create a strong sense of realism. It's not just adding 2 senses together, it's a synergy. The moment feels more real than either cue alone. And what's existing is these patterns keep showing up again and again across experiences. Let's start with the foundation patterns, the basic building blocks of presence. These are the cues that make the virtual world feel stable and believable. First, the spatial consistency. When the geometry and layout stay coherent, your brain immediately says, this world makes sense. It's the strongest predictor overall. Second, physical accuracy. The world reacts the way physics tells it should. When you throw something or push a door and it moves naturally, that reaction confirms your sense of being there. And third, sensory synchronization. When what you see and what you hear line up perfectly in time, that half-second harmony between sound and motion is what really sells realism. Put together, these 3 patterns give you a stable perceptual ground to stand on. Once the world feels solid, the next step is engagement pattern, how you and the system respond to each other. The first one, background autonomy, means the environment feels alive on its own. Waves keep moving, wind keeps blowing, creatures wander around. Even if you're not doing anything, the world keeps breathing. Then there's intentional efficacy, which is the opposite side. It's when your actions clearly shape the world, controls respond smoothly, feedback comes right on time, and every movement feels intentional. Together, this creates a continuous loop. You sense the world, act on it, and then see it respond back to you. Finally, the refinement patterns don't create presence from scratch, but they keep it alive once it's there. Interface non-intrusion means the interface disappears from your awareness. Everything just feels natural and seamless. Social authenticity happens when characters move and react like real people. And information structure is about having clear, well-organized visuals so you can stay focused without confusion. Across our 8 patterns, the hierarchy is clear. A foundation gives your world, engagement connects you to it, and the refinement lets you stay there. Now, here's the key point. These patterns don't work alone. They interact. First, coupling effects, when strong cues like spatial consistency and background autonomy lies together, presence grows much faster than either one alone. It's not additive, it's multiplicative. Compensation effects. Sometimes one pattern can cover for another. For instance, good interface non-intrusion can make up for weaker information structure. But if both fall too low, presence collapses. And finally, thresholds. Once those foundation cues drop below a critical point, presence rarely recovers, no matter what else you fix. So the takeaway is clear. You can't adjust patterns one by one. Presence is about orchestration, how these cues work together in time. And we discovered 3 distinct presence trajectories, and they behave very differently. Fast immersion, the red line, about 38% of sessions, presence spikes within the first 2 minutes, reach its peak around 146 seconds, and stays steady near 0.79. We usually see this in exploration or simulation games where the environment feels coherent right from the start. And the gradual build-up, the blue line, about the 36%, presence lies slowly but ends up strongest overall, peaking around for 5 seconds with a finer intensity of 0.89. Spatial cues dominate early, then physical and intentional cues take over mid-session, and information clarity peaks near the end, what we call progressive mastery. Finally, intermittent drop, the green line, around 26%. Presence rises first and repeatedly. Each drop lasts about 38 seconds and happens roughly 2.4 times per session. The main triggers are physics violations, desynchronization, and UI intrusion. These patterns appears most often in action games with higher cognitive load. Each trajectory has its own rhythm and demands a different design strategy. All of findings come together in what we call pattern orchestration theory. Presence unfolds in 3 connected phases. Phase 1, perception anchoring. This is where presence first takes root. Users from a stable sense of space. If spatial consistency is weak here, nothing else really sticks. Phase 2, task engagement. Now users shift from reacting to acting. Smooth interaction and timely feedback keep them in control. Phase 3, cognitive refinement. Finally, users start noticing the finer details, clear information, and believable social cues sustain immersion. The principle is simple. Each phase builds on the one before it. If the foundation breaks, engagement can stabilize and refinement never appears. So the design priorities are clear: early spatial, mid interaction, and late information. Let me wrap up with 5 key takeaways. First, presence is dynamic, not static. We found 3 distinct trajectories: fast immersion, gradual build-up, and intermittent drop. Second, presence is multimodal, not unimodal. It emerges from how visuals, audio, interaction, and gaze work together. Third, presence has an interpretable structure, 8 recurring patterns organized in a clearly hierarchy. Fourth, these patterns unfold over time. Phase 1, foundation. Phase 2, engagement. And phase 3, refinement. And fifth, presence is predictable. Our model reached 0.64 using behavioral data alone. In short, presence is dynamic, multimodal, interpretable, temporal, and measurable. So what can we actually do with this adaptive VR system? We can monitor presence in real time and respond before it collapses. If spatial cues start drifting, we can stabilize motion or reinforce visual anchors. In our prototypes, this kind of adaptive feedback noticeably improved the presence. Design guidance, Present Lens gives designers a shared language for evaluating experience quality. You can say this scene feels weak in physical accuracy, or interaction timing feels off. It helps teams focus on measurable, phase-specific cues, what matters early, mid, and late in the experiences. Diagnostics. We can pinpoint when and why presence drops. Instead of vague feedback, designers get concrete, time-stamped signals tied to interactions events. This framework also enables causal testing. For example, if we intentionally disrupt the spatial stability early on, does it block engagement later? This work has a few limitations. We relied on post-session self-reports and a short, limited sample. Future work will add physiological signals and social VR context to test these patterns causally. The takeaway is simple. Presence in VR isn't a number, it's a process. It unfolds the coordinate patterns that we cannot predict and explain with the behavior alone. Thank you for your attention. You can also reach me at email or Discord. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can take one quick question if you have, because of the time differences. If not, I have just one quick question. So since you have a lot of participants and 120 persons, right? So in the age differences, 90 to 42 ages, do you also find any features based on different ages with the result?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question a bit more slowly?
So do you have find any features based on the different age of the participant?
Age? 나이에 따라서 we collected data from about 120 participants who each played 10 different VR titles. But we didn't look at age effects, but our sample ranged mostly from early 20s to early 40s, so variation was limited. Within that range, we didn't find those strong age-related differences.
Okay, very good, thank you. So this is the end of the second person. Thank you very much. Go.
Okay, thank you. All right. I have to say it's been a while since last time I presented my work inside big room, so I have to say, man, I'm nervous. Thank you very much for coming for the presentation, and I'm Ruochen Cao, and I'm so happy to present our work named The Role of Visual Augmentation on Embodied Skill Acquisition Across Perspectives and Body Representations. So the work was conducted under the collaboration between two universities. The first one is Taiyuan University of Technology, from China, a pretty small town in China. Every time when I mention small town in China, people keep telling me that small in China is not small. The second one is Australian Research Centre for Interactive and Virtual Environments at University of South Australia. So as you can see from the title, all of our work is about embodiment. It's about embodied motor learning. So tons of research suggested that embodiment can increase people's cognitive progress. So based on this agreement, we believe the use of embodiment can help people to learn skills better. For example, as you can see from the fingers, we can put people from the perspective of the trainer. So in the fingers, the blue body is the trainer's body. The colored body is the user's body, which is one that we applied in our user study. So based on this agreement, our work is about giving people visual supports to help them learn this movement better. As you can see from the finger, we provide them with the simple lines connecting two bodies. And hopefully, this approach can help them to follow the movement better. So in the experiment, we completely developed 3 visualizations named lines, line plus thickness, line plus color. I will introduce them later. In 2 perspectives, first-person perspective and third-person perspective. And for 2 body parts, arm and finger. For arm, we applied traditional VR headset to track their movements, and for fingers, we applied data globes to track their hand movements. And for lines, we provide participants with a static line rendered between each corresponding joint points between the 2 bodies. And for line plus thickness, the same lines were generated, but the thickness was changed based on the distance between the 2 bodies. So as you can imagine, the thinker lines indicated closer alignment. And for line plus color, still the same line, but this time color changed, where green indicates more distance and red indicates longer distance. And for each of the body parts, we provide them with different actions. So to maintain the fairness between comparison, we didn't apply real person to control the trainer in real time. Actually, we recorded different actions, pre-recorded them, and applied them on the blue body as animations so that everyone can follow the same, exact same trajectories. So for the upper body, like the arms, we applied aircraft marshalling signals, and 20 actions were finally selected and applied in our study. For the fingers, we applied ASL, American Sign Language. We think those actions are the ones that widely applied in our daily life. So all about our experiment was we asked participants to follow the movements of the blue body, either in arm or fingers, either in first-person perspectives or third-person perspectives with different technologies. So we finally had a mixed design VR study with a full visual guidance condition times 2 body parts within subject structures and the 2 level between subjects factors, which is perspectives. For each of the variables, we did something for counterbalancing. For example, for the between subjects factor, we strictly control the number of participants applied in each group. We had finally 40 participants, with 20 of them applied in the first-person perspective, and 20 of them were assigned into the third-person perspective group. And for the within subject structure, we first generated 20 randomized task lists using Python, and each of them contain a unique sequence of gesture action pairs. They were separately applied to the first-person and third-person perspective group. And also, the order of the 4 visual conditions was counterbalanced. Our measurements. We had objective measurements and subjective measurements. For objective measurements, we applied a 2-step approach to maintain the fairness of the comparison across body parts. First of all, we measured the Euclid distance between each corresponding points, which we called spatial errors in the paper. And then to account for the variation in movement scale, for example, everyone can imagine, simply imagine arm movements has larger trajectories, but finger has smaller ones. So we calculated, which we called relative errors, by dividing each point's spatial error by its corresponding trajectory length in the reference animation. Reference animation is the one that we applied to the blue body, the trainer's body, the right trajectory. So we hope and we believe this approach can ensure the fairness of the comparison. For the subjective questionnaire, we applied, as you can see, NASA TLX for mental demand, motivation questionnaires, IPQ, and embodiment. All those are the very common in such kind of experiments. And also, after the whole experiment, we also asked participants to rank the conditions they just experienced to see if there's anything interesting. And the results. There's a lot of interesting results in our paper, and we believe there are still space to dig. I really hope I can have like 10 minutes to let you guys to read all those tables so I can present it easier, but unfortunately, I don't think I can. So here, all what I can do is to give you guys a very brief summary, and if any of you are interested, please feel free to contact me later after presentation or read our paper and contact me, please. So first of all, behavioral findings. We found that all the visual guidance significantly affect the results, especially the colored ones. And also, we consistently found finger task and first-person perspective are better as compared to the outside conditions. I will also mention this in our subjective results. We also measured short learning effects. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So in our experiments, we asked participants to repeat each action 6 times to explore the short-term learning effects. And we found that, indeed, they have. So participants progressively improved their imitation accuracy, but we haven't found any evidence supporting any of the visual feedback is better. And for the subjective findings, we first of all found all the variables significantly affect the workload. And also we found a very interesting interaction between body parts and perspective on mental and physical demand. And also, just like what I mentioned in the subjective measurements, we consistently found the benefits of first-person task and finger task in motivation, IPQ, and embodiment questionnaires. So the limitations. First of all, we didn't apply very wide actions. It's really limited. So in the future, we plan to apply more actions to explore more domains. Secondly, very interesting, we didn't formally assess or control for the gesture level difficulty. We believe there's some interesting interaction between them, but we didn't really measure it. We just maintain all actions are the same or similar difficulties. So in the future, we plan to apply or develop our own gesture level task difficulty measurements. And thirdly, also interesting, we did not measure participants' arm length. We believe it affects, but all what we did due to the time limitation and we were really not good at this. So we invited participants with roughly similar height. We assume they have similar arm length, but we believe they are not. So in the future, we expect some very good dynamic arm extension mechanisms. We will develop some, or we will find some very good ones in the future. So just to conclude, first of all, we developed which we called PalmPad-inspired visual guidance framework, like the color ones, thickness plus thickness ones, for supporting immersive skill acquisition. Secondly, we conducted a mixed design user study to provide some empirical investigations and findings. Believe me, there's a lot of interesting findings that I can't have time to present now, so please, again, feel free to contact me later. And thirdly, we believe some of our results can provide design insights for visual guidance in such or similar scenarios. Okay, that's all about our work. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm Ruchen Cao from Taiwan University of Technology, a very small town in China. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So now it's a good chance for the question. Yes, please.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask with regards to embodiment, there's like the different categories, specifically agency, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
With regards to embodiment, user embodiment, you measured it, and specifically with agency, how was that affected when there was a puppet essentially, or essentially you were being puppeteered in a way?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Is that the selection of the agency or?
So the category, the dimension of agency and embodiment.
Imagine
Dimension of agency.
what mention of agency. Mention.
So in embodiment there is ownership, agency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in agency, how was that impacted with the puppeteering, with the puppet design? Like, was it low,
The design of the
high, with your design?
the agency will apply.
We can discuss it, I guess,
Yeah,
later.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I really,
No, it's okay.
I can't really recognize the question from this.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But
Thank you.
about the agency, I can talk a bit more. Like the reason why we apply the blue color, because we think that color can not affect people's perception of embodiment. People can easily tell that is a wrong body, that is not their own body. And also we put the people, put the two bodies, the color body and the blue body on the same position, exactly the same position, so they can see everything from the same perspectives. So just like what I said, we try to put two bodies on the same perspective so that they can easily follow that movement. I hope I answered some of your questions, but if you are, yeah, thank you. Sorry for that.
Okay, you have any extra questions? If not, then we can move to the last person. Okay? Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank you and congratulate you for overcoming jet lag and waiting until the end of this day. I hope I get through it as well. My name is Al-Hassan Maqlid, and I'm a PhD candidate at TU Ilmenau. Today, on behalf of myself and Professor Wolfgang Brohl, I'll be presenting our work on user embodiment of smartphone AR users, driven by single-point hand IK and face tracking. So with advances in smartphone capabilities, particularly with extended reality, devices can now use various sensors to deliver immersive handheld AR experiences. And this proliferation allows users across the virtuality reality continuum to connect, enabling smartphone AR users to join a cross-reality session with other AR or VR users, and hence representing smartphone AR users to remote users is becoming more essential. And to enable smartphone AR user representation, there are two key aspects that need to be considered. And the first one is the visual representation of the user, and the second, of course, is the behavioral realism of the avatar, such that the avatar mimics the user's movement. And to allow for the user's movement to be mimicked by the avatar, different approaches can be used. So, for example, for VR, the tracking information from the devices, such as the controllers or the HMD or extra trackers, can be used to kind of get the information and provide an estimation of how the VR user is moving. And and you can use inverse kinematics to estimate the position of untracked joints. However, for smartphone AR users, there is a sparse sensor data that can only provide very little meaningful information about the smartphone AR user's movement. Now, in our previous work in ISMAR 2022, we introduced Arica, which was a single point-driven hand IK, and essentially what it did is that it uses a blend of various animations and hand IK from the information from the smartphone, and it used tracking the pose of the phone. It uses this information to animate a digital twin, which acted as the target for the avatar's hand IK. And from there, we can calculate standing distance from the user and the phone, and based on that distance, we move a point of destination, and the avatar walks towards it. And finally, the walking animation, so using the phone's velocity, we animate the lower body by a blend of different animations to kind of make it somewhat natural in a way. So when we were evaluating this work, we measured the sense of embodiment and tracking accuracy in comparison to motion capturing technology, and this acted as our ground truth, essentially. And Arica did fare well when it came to body ownership. However, when it came to self-location, it kind of fell short. And this was mostly due to the avatar not being positioned where the user actually is many times. And this further impacted, of course, system accuracy and the joint positions, and when it's compared to the motion tracking data, and of course, embodiment as well. So for this work, we aim to explore the use of face tracking alongside the single point hand and K that we previously developed, and to check its impact on accuracy, user sense of overall embodiment, and user experience in comparison to the very first system we developed, which was Erica, and of course using motion capturing again as a ground truth. And we based our work on a certain assumption that the user is not doing complex activities. So they're not leaning, running, or for example, doing exercise, but rather they're in a social setting where they are standing and walking around, maybe a shared space with other users. And for this, we aim to answer the three following questions. So how does dual point IK affect avatar pose accuracy compared to single point IK? And does dual point IK improve user sense of embodiment over single point IK or Erica? And how do users rate this in terms of user experience? Now, to answer this question, we developed the dual point IK or Erica 2 or DPIK, and it uses the base logic behind Erica's single point IK and animation blends, such that the phone's position and orientation from ARKit or ARCore is used to drive the hand IK. Simultaneously, it uses the front-facing camera to track the user's face. And from that point, the face position and orientation animate the head accordingly to provide a better user representation and expressiveness, thus allowing for subtle expressions like a nod or shaking the head. And through getting the distance from the phone and the face, we can estimate where the head is and then assume the position of the hips and therefore the position of the avatar, and hence accommodating for the self-location issue. We designed our study similar to the previous work. So participants use a motion capturing suit and observed an AR experience on an iPhone 14 Pro. Participants saw an augmented mirror with a reflection of their own avatar mimicking their movement. And during that time, 3 avatars were being processed and animated at the same time, one driven with Erica, other with DPIK, and finally one with motion capturing. However, only one avatar was visible to the participants based on the current study condition they were taking. So it's either Erica or DPIK or motion capture. And as this was a within subject design, the order of the conditions, of course, were we use the Latin square sequence to mitigate possible biases. And after each condition, participants answered a virtual embodiment questionnaire by Roth et al. And a short user experience questionnaire by Schrepp et al. And once participants are done with all conditions, they are asked to rank the different tracking techniques based on personal preference and provide kind of a short reasoning behind that ranking. And throughout the study, of course, we recorded positional and rotational information of all the avatar's joints to evaluate later its system accuracy and compare. So for the task, participants observed a visible point that was only visible through the virtual mirror and are instructed to walk towards it. Once they reach the point, a hand point appears in front of them, floating, which requires the participant to move their hand around to touch it. And each floor point had 4 floating hand points, and the sequence is repeated across the 4 different floor points. I hope you keep up with this, totaling to 20 interactions. So the right-hand image shows all the points rendered, floating points and floor points. And of course, the order of the points was shuffled between users. So for the results, we'll start with accuracy. So comparing DPIK to Erica against motion capturing as the ground truth, we analyzed 19 joints for both positional and rotational accuracy. So on average, DPIK had a lower mean Euclidean distance error of about 19.9 centimeters compared to 21.2 centimeters for Erica. And you can see the impact of integrating head tracking with DPIK on the upper body, specifically on the center joints. And in terms of rotation, even though across all joints there was not a clear visible difference between Erica and DPIK, however, when we look into specific joints individually, we can see how specifically head movement was, there was a notable improvement there. So DPIK significantly outperformed Erica in 18 of the 19 joints for positional error. The largest improvement were mostly at the center joints. Wrist showed no significance whatsoever, and this makes sense as ARIKA and DPIK are both driven by the single point hand IK. For rotational error, DPIK was significantly more accurate in 10 joints, notably the center joints. Next, we analyze user embodiment. So using the virtual embodiment questionnaire across the three conditions, we examined the three categories: acceptance, control, and change. So although no significant differences were found, overall DPIK showed like a consistent trend towards higher embodiment than ARIKA in specifically control, which is agency, and both IK-based methods achieved kind of an average score above 4 on a 7-point Likert scale, indicating kind of like participants still experience a good sense of embodiment. Finally, let's look at how users rated ARIKA and DPIK in terms of user experience. So the user experience questionnaire explores two main dimensions: pragmatic quality, which measures how functional and efficient the system feels, and hedonic quality, which reflects enjoyment and engagement. The results show that DPIK consistently outperformed ARIKA across all dimensions. Although the individual qualities weren't statistically significant, the overall experience was statistically different and significant for DPIK. So to summarize our results in relation to our research questions, the study compared single point IK or ARIKA and DPIK for smartphone-based AR avatars. DPIK significantly improves avatars' pose accuracy over single point IK, yielding more precise and stable joint tracking across the body. Dual point IK also slightly enhances the embodiment, specifically in control and agency, while maintaining accessibility and overall embodiment quality in smartphone AR. And with regards to user experience, users rated DPIK as delivering a significantly better overall user experience, combining higher enjoyment with improved usability. Before concluding, we also look at the key limitations observed in our study. So technically, DPIK still struggles to fully capture user posture, especially around the hips, since the system infers body position primarily from head and hand tracking. However, there is no IK chain that kind of does the same IK that it does to the hand, to the rest of the body or the center part of the body. Participants also mentioned ergonomic challenges, so they always needed to hold the phone at a constant distance to kind of make sure that their face is being tracked at all times. And finally, some users face depth perception issues, specifically looking at a mirror in AR and trying to walk to a specific distance. However, there is still also work to do, so future work should handle loss of face tracking more gracefully, support more complex movements, and improve high hip estimation for better posture representation. And finally, I think the most important key next step is to explore how IK-driven avatars affect social presence in these multi-user scenarios to understand how these improvements translate into a shared AR and VR experience. And yeah, thank you for your attention and staying up till this point, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay. Thank you. Well, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. It's time to ask the questions. There is one person, buddy.
Very short question. Does it work with both hands or only?
Oh, yeah. So this works with both hands and also can work with both hands at the same time, so as if you're holding the phone with both hands. However, for the study specifically, we only used right-hand participants, so participants are mostly dominant with their right hands, just for consistency.
Okay. Any extra question? I have one question, actually. Thank you for the interesting topics. So maybe it's going to be in the future. So what about using the smartphone and the camera itself to understand the face?
I apologize, but the sound is really...
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so what about using the face tracking?
Yeah.
That can also be one of the functions that will make it accurate more?
I'm not sure I'm supposed to talk about this, but we are exploring this right now, or explored it at least. We did explore it in something different. So yes, face tracking will help in embodiment, and we did integrate this into our system. However, it was not present in this work. Hopefully, future work.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you. So that's any extra? Then that's 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you very much for the last presenter, and also thank you for
Thank you so
all the
much.
person who asked the question. Thank you.